Hey guys, welcome back to another episode here on Hacks and Hobbies. Today, navigating the preteen years can feel like walking through a minefield of emotions and changes. Today, we're joined by Marcus Aurelius Higgs, a communication coach who specializes in guiding parents through these challenging times. With his transformative show up framework, ready to turn conflict into connection, let's dive in. Marcus, thank you so much for coming on. Welcome to the show.
June 8th. It is wonderful to be here. Thank you for hosting.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
man. Can you start by telling us a bit about your background and what led you to become a communication coach for parents and preteens?
Awesome. Yeah, the backstory. First of all, I love that communicate conflict into connection. Love that. Um, so myself, I'm a third culture kid. Are you familiar with that term? Third culture
Third
kid?
culture kid. Tell me more.
Yeah. It's when your passport is not necessarily the country you live in or the
Mm-hmm.
country you grew up in, or it's different from your parents' passport country. Um, so I myself, my mother is from the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
My father's from the Bahamas, and I
Okay.
was born in Riverside, California. Hey,
Hey, I grew up in Riverside, California. What's
for
up?
real? Yeah, I went
Yeah.
to there's Sierra Middle School. I went to Jefferson, and then there's
Nice.
North and so on. Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
But I moved to the Bahamas when I was 12, and I grew up there.
Mm.
Um, I went to university where I studied communication journalism, and straightway went to South Korea, where I was
Mm.
a Bible English teacher. Worldviews changed, no animosity towards the church, still have a connection with the divine in that relationship and so on. Um, but I love teaching. And I love teaching, not but, and I love teaching. I love people. Um, Continued doing that, trained inside Thailand, went to Saudi Arabia, studied there, learned about Islam as a world religion, came back to Thailand. Um, I'm open to the understanding, and you'll see this a lot inside my speech, who I am, but people's understanding of higher forces and greater powers.
Mm-hmm.
And then taught in Thailand, went to Spain, did 2 years there, and came back to Thailand 7 years. And now I'm back in the Bahamas with my aged parents. Um, I taught as an English teacher, high school English teacher, yeah, and did some time with some fifth graders also, fifth and sixth graders. There's a book I carry around with me, the Goodbye
Nice.
book.
Nice.
And the reason I bring it up is people ask me my why, the why that makes you cry. It's when you have a book filled with a whole bunch of stick men with little afros.
Mm.
um, those were wonderful, wonderful moments. And also reflecting on my upbringing with my father, single father, wonderful dad. Looking back, could be better, could be worse. Always be
Of
grateful for what
course.
it is. And that informs a lot of the work that I do also.
Mm.
And yeah, I have a special skill, quite honestly, of communication. I love it. The quality of your communication is directly related to the quality of your life. How you can speak to yourself, with yourself, and then with others. And the reason preteens is because this is the first identity breaking of the child. And if you can get there to give them a perspective, a lens, you can really set them on a totally different trajectory for their life.
Yeah.
So that's why I felt I could have the most impact. Yeah.
You know, one so as you shared your journey traveling the different countries, living in different cultures, the term third culture, I mean, technically, I don't know if this is third culture because I,
I
I was born in Pakistan, right? I
uh-huh.
grew up
Yeah.
in Saudi Arabia, but now I'm living
Hmm.
in the US. Does that count? I don't know. My parents were both from Pakistan, so I'm not.
Yeah,
I don't know. But what's interesting is because you've been in so many different cultures and so many different countries, obviously you'd be a communication coach because you've had to communicate with so many different languages. And the more you do that, guess what's happening? The better you get at communicating the different languages and understanding non-verbal cues
yeah.
to what's going on in the brain.
Well, and I mean, you may experience this too, Junaid. It's just once you're traveling in those different circles,
Mm-hmm.
you have to be quick to the game to say, what does this mean?
Yeah.
Right. And it's not hyper vigilant like you're scared or anything, but it's just you tune in quickly. That's one thing of a third culture kid. Um, Now, as a language teacher, I literally had to sit down and parse broken English to make sense of it. It could be mind numbing at times,
Yeah.
but then after a while, it's just like, no, this is the way we communicate. And I'm really trying to see this person, help them get better, bring forth their greatness. And yeah, that really, and there's the last thing I'll say. You see the intersection of humanity, like
Yeah.
what where the common ground is. And that's what I speak to. Yeah.
I love that because no matter how many different cultures, no matter how many different languages human beings use to communicate, we still gotta eat, sleep, and do all the same things. Like we're all the same on the inside.
Hey,
It's kind of insane.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Now,
yeah, yeah.
as you're going through this life of yours, your journey, your experiences, what was the inspiration behind developing the show up framework? And has it evolved over time?
Um, so the show up framework is a solution to the challenges that preteens go through.
Hmm.
And in order to set up the context, the challenges are a wall of ice. That's what I call it. The ice wall is so preteens, first of all, before they're preteens, they're kids. They're babies that we have to change, right?
Yes.
And they're dependent on us. Um, and in being dependent, we hold them close. It's maternal energy that says you're loved, you're secured, you're safe, you're seen, you're soothed.
Hmm.
The natural progression is for them to seek independence, to turn away and to say, okay, let me form my own life. However, paternal energy also pushes them away. And it says, you're safe, you're seen, you're
Interesting.
soothed. And in that dynamic is where you create that tension where, okay, I need to be independent and I'm breaking away from being dependent. And that's where you create that holistic human. Now, that's not the final form, like Pokemon. um, Full maturity is interdependence. I will take care of me to be in service to you. If you promise to take care of you to be in service to me. But before that, they have to go through independence. Now, in that breaking, that's where they create an ice wall. And what ice is identity breaking. There's new roles, new expectations, um, their understanding of an adult, right? The second is I see collaborative mistrust. Thank you. um, Collaborative mistrust is they don't know who to trust at this age. And where
Hmm.
does that come from? Their whole world was black and white by what you said growing up. But now, as different views, different perspectives come into the picture, there's a different understanding of what the world is. As they experience other trustworthy parents or adults inside their world, social media is giving them a different understanding of the world.
Hmm.
This will happen where they start to experience a new perspective. And that's where they're just like, this age is where skepticism sets in,
Hmm.
but nuance hasn't reached yet. Nuance is like 18 of, hey, this person could still hold a different view, but still hold my well being. Anyhow, so collaborative mistrust. Third thing is emotional mismanagement. Or as my fifth graders used to say, emotional management. uh, um, So so instead of emotional damage, emotional mismanagement.
Mm,
Emotions, they give us a subjective understanding of our well-being. They tell us what other people are feeling and how we're navigating and moving. But this is,
mm,
kids are just new to this, right?
yeah.
So they're mismanaging it. They're not, they're bumping and breaking away things. They don't understand. They don't have the vocabulary yet. So they start to separate, or they start to distance themselves. And that's where that ice wall is formed. Now, to melt that wall, we show up. We show up as
Mm,
trustworthy present parents. Has it evolved? Not so much, because
yeah.
it will evolve as I start to present it more. This is my life's work. Yeah, I'm gonna
Sure.
stick with this for a while. Now, it's based on what I know of human development, and we can get into the details of it, but
Mm-hmm.
I'll pause right now just to invite you. Yeah, any thoughts? Or
I I do have some thoughts. I mean, it's really interesting how you've presented it. The kids when they're going through this preteen stage, there's a really beautiful movie that's already been done. You probably know which one I'm going to talk about. The movie
Inside
Inside
Out?
Out, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because
Tell me
that's
about it.
exactly the kind of feeling she was going through. She's like, "Wait, I want to be happy, but it's making me sad." And then the joy particle kept pushing the sad away, not realizing that so much connection is between sad and joy. And you'll see that evolution happen throughout, the movie towards the end of it, of course. And it's so true because I have an entire range of kids, as
Yeah.
um, I've mentioned before on the podcast. I have a 14-year-old, a 9-year-old, who's a middle child, right
Hmm.
between the oldest, and the daughter of 6 years old, and then my youngest at 2 years old. He's still forming his opinions. He's he's already forming his opinions, I should say, because
14-year-old?
no, the 2-year-old,
Oh, the 2-year-old. Okay, go
because
on.
he's learning from five different individuals, and he has a preference on who he wants to hang out with more than the other, right? Because of how much attention they give him. There's so many things at play, but you're right. As my oldest is getting older, I'm feeling that disconnection because there's so much more homework, so much more exam work that he's doing. I'm like, okay, where can I meet him? And then yesterday was my birthday, and we were just hanging out, and we're playing video games. It's like, here, Robert, play with me. So I was like, okay, this is what he loves to do. Maybe this
Yeah.
is where I get to meet with him. So it's really interesting, because as parents, we are continually growing. It's not like we know everything. We're going into this blind, just like the kids are as well. But we just know a little more, and then instead of being curious, we start becoming being really protective.
Mm. Yeah. Yes to all of that. So many threads to pull.
Yeah.
We all live in the biggest room, the room for improvement. And I love that you found the common ground of, and you took them up on the invitation
Mm-hmm.
of just like, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's part of the show up framework too. Uh, I, what, it's okay for me to walk through it.
Oh,
Shall I
please,
walk through it?
yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the show up framework, first it's start with a strong identity. All action, all behavior comes from our identity, who we believe we are.
Mm-hmm.
And we break it down into virtues and values. Now, are you familiar with the 24 virtues in action, or virtues in action?
Sort of, kind of, yes.
Correct. Okay. This is these are these are virtues, and what virtues are characteristics trait chari- characteristic traits that are always acting in your well-being or in the well-being of the community. Certain things like gratitude,
Mm.
creativity, leadership, so on. And these are in all cultures, all religions, from ancient times. to modern times.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's positive psychology, VIA, virtues in action. And everybody has a 24 virtues, yet for each individual, five are expressed more than others. And that's
Oh,
what makes them
interesting.
unique. Yeah.
Mm.
When you get to the superhero part, yeah, a lot of my work comes down to identity because we're gonna act from identity, and yeah.
Yeah.
So that's virtues and values. Very simply, are what's important to you. What's important to you. I could tell from you, you're a creative person doing home studios. You're also you're a person who perseveres. Seems as if you have four kids, right? You have to have your
Mm-hmm.
stuff in
You have to
order.
have the
Yeah.
perseverance.
And what we do is virtue spotting. So when you're seeing people in their virtues, you speak to it, and then they live into their identity. Start with a strong identity. H is hold space for collaboration. When kids have their wall of ice, they often think, "What's wrong with me?" And
Mm.
it's like, "Hey, nothing's wrong with you. You're going through growing pains. They're challenges. How does this align with your virtues?" So what that does is that creates tension. And in creating tension, you invite the kid into the conversation of saying, "Hey, what are your thoughts on this?" Like, yeah, what are your thoughts on this? And then you share with them your idea of expectations, um, rules and regulations or boundaries around it. And when a kid is not meeting your expectations, it's one of two things. Either one, they're not supported, or two, they don't have the skills to do it. So how do we give them the support and how do we give them the skills? They may not be
Mm-hmm.
interested in it, which is fair, right? But as you set up rules and regulations to help guide them, the final thing is you invite them into
Yeah.
finding a solution. And it's a collaborative solution that you can live with and I can live with, and we'll live with for a time, and then we'll revisit it again.
Yeah.
So, um, after you hold space for collaboration, then that's open up communication. I have that for some hacks later on for the audience. But you open up communication. They have that wall set up, but how do you present yourself? How do you pass on your virtues and values without being preachy? How is it that you have an influence on them, and how do you parent, which is the etymology meaning to bring forth?
Mm.
And the final one, I love how you said this. It's wonder and explore the world together. And the reason I said you said this is you said, I don't know where to connect with him. Angela Duckworth speaks of inside her book Grit, her family, each individual choosing to do something that is effortful for a long
Mm-hmm.
term. That's a project. Is project-based living, project-based learning, actually.
Yeah.
And your project is a podcast. Your project is home studios. It's showing how you're building something. But then also your son will have a project. And it gives you a common place to converse on, to
Yeah.
talk about, and talk about progression, regardless of what the project is. Could be a sport, could be a language, could be a hobby. Um, and then that's how you UP, unveil your potential together.
Mm. It as you talk about the show up framework, as you decipher the P part, which is project, right? Project or exploration.
That's W, wonder
Oh,
and
okay.
explore the
Wonder
world.
and explore.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's interesting is different kid wants to do different things. For example, my second son, he wants to build Lego sets, and he knows I have Lego sets stored away that I have not opened. And he comes and asks me like, when are we gonna build it? And just recently, he's asking for, hey, Dad, can we get some like, because he's building an army of the Empire and versus the Jedi, and he's like asking me these questions about, hey, who's the good guy? What about the Sith? What about the Clone Wars? Are they good guys? Are they bad guys? So I'm like giving him all this thing. So then he goes to Amazon. He's like, I want to get this Lego set, this Lego set, this Lego set, because they have four minifigs. Like minifigs are expensive.
Okay.
Like if you go buy a minifig by itself, it's like $15. But this set
Oh.
alone has four of them for like
Uh-huh.
$13 or whatever. So I'm like, okay, we'll get something. So he's asking me, okay, when are we gonna build these sets? So that's an activity that I do with him. My oldest one has to play a video game. My third daughter, she wants to do all sorts of different things. She's, still exploring. being outside is one of the things, and the youngest one's like, hey, I want to go outside. But again, it's really
Yeah.
interesting how they all have their own projects for dad to get integrated with theirs.
Well, I mean, they're people, right? They're little
Yes, they
people.
are. They are little people with full-on brains and full-on thought processes and everything.
Uh, and that said, they're going to every kid is a unique context. Um, as they're going through their projects, though,
Mm-hmm.
and by projects, there's a definition for it from schooling. How
Yeah.
there's an expected outcome, there's a timeline, there are resources, and how do we figure it out? What you're really teaching them is critical thinking to go along as you work through a project. And underneath all project is development or progress. It's the principles of progress. And it's how do you pull that out within the interest that they're in? Um, interest, the etymology means in between your being. And really that's where you tap in to say, oh yeah, you're interested in this,
Hmm.
cultivate it in you. And I'm interested in your interest because you're worthy of being interested in. That's a lot of interest circle, but you know what I mean. You're showing
Right.
your kid you're worthy of my attention,
Mm-hmm.
and then
And
that's
that's all
that's
they
how you
want.
build confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting what that you mentioned attention because that is the number one currency on literally all the platforms. Like Gary Vaynerchuk's latest book, Day Trading Attention, he talks about attention. And of course kids want your attention. When we're hanging out with them and we have a phone in our hands, well, we're not giving them attention. We're giving the phone attention. In fact, I was on Sunday, we were at the swimming. We took the kids swimming. My youngest is sitting in my lap while we're watching them swim, and I see this mom with a little kid, an infant in a car seat or
Mm-hmm.
stroller or whatever.
Ram.
And
Yeah.
while she was holding him, he was fine. But then she put him down. He started crying. He wanted attention.
Mm.
But then she's like, just shaking the stroller back and forth, and he's still crying while she's looking at this phone. And then so I look at the kid and I wave at him and make all these faces, and he stopped crying. And now I don't know if
Mm.
she knew that I was looking at the kid and interacting with him. She's thinking, oh, maybe this thing is working. I'll just keep doing it.
She wasn't even aware of you.
She was not aware of her surroundings. It was really interesting.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
wow.
Here's
So,
something worth thinking about. And
mhm.
and you're right. Attention is the first step. Um, I'm thinking we're moving into an age where the next currency is going to be trust. And actually, that's always been the underlying currency.
100%.
Um, you can have, I mean, where everything's can be where things can be synthetically developed and so quickly and so on. Trust is built over time, and the three pillars of trust. We can get into it later, but yeah, that's going to be the new currency of the digital age, the AI
Yeah.
digital age.
Wow. I had all of these lists of questions, but I don't need to ask those questions because I'm a parent and we're communicating about parenting and kids. So, it's very natural. I want to take a real
Yeah.
quick break. And before I go into the break and talk about Ecamm Live, um, I want to do a shout out to the people who came on. One gentleman, Philip Van Hoot, he's like, bro, I had to get an Afro headphone because you are wearing headphones, but they're like integrated into your Afro. It's almost like an Afro headphone, but that's your actual Afro, right? That's your actual
No,
hair.
this is my real hair. This is
Right,
all
that's what I'm
me.
thinking. But he's thinking, hey, maybe there's such a thing as a product that is an Afro headphone where headphones have this Afro built into
Hey,
it.
why not? You know what I mean?
Right? It looks pretty epic. So, and then he says, I don't know if you do podcasts or meditation, but you got a soothing voice. So I'm not sure
Um,
if it's for you or if it's for me, but I think we both have pretty soothing voices.
Actually, yeah, I did notice that of you. I've heard that a time or two, but
um,
uh,
and then this last one is the real heroes are the great parents. Hallelujah.
there you go.
This is awesome.
Boom.
Dude, this has been a lot of fun especially understanding where we all come from in that movie, um, In and Out or Inside Out, and how human beings actually work, because it's been for centuries, like literally centuries, human beings have behaved very similarly. We're overprotective because of that lizard brain. I don't know why people still call it the lizard brain, but maybe that's how it goes. And looks like my camera overheated, so maybe I'll switch to this camera angle.
Hey, we got angles. We got angles. We got angles.
All right, I'm gonna take the quick break, and then we come back and continue the conversation. Hey guys, so we've been having a really fun conversation on the podcast, and as you're listening to it, just want to give a shout out to this amazing application that's enabled this entire podcast to take place. Ecamm Live 4.3, enabling Zoom integration. And what that means is that I can have the same Zoom conversations, Zoom meetings as I did before, but now I can bring in all of those fun people into a live stream that can go to multiple platforms using Ecamm Live. And not only that, I can highlight different people as I am creating these scenes, as I'm creating these videos or these interviews. It just makes it for a lot more fun and engaging experience. In fact, if you check out Ecamm Live, they're going to have actually Ecamm Live and Zoom are going to show up on office hours, which is an ongoing live stream. They literally do it every day from, I think it's 7 a.m. Pacific time, 10 a.m. Eastern time to about 11:30 every single day. It's live on YouTube. So Ecamm Live and Zoom are going to be there talking about it, how they're integrated. And I think it's a really great play because a lot more people can benefit from what this application does. All right. That's all I got. So check the link in the show notes. Learn more about Ecamm Live, and back to the show. That's not it. So while we're here, I'm gonna try and see if I can bring that camera back. I'll have to unplug it. But in the meantime, why don't you?
Want me to? Yeah, I'll share something.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and jump into the 3 hacks that parents can implement right away to improve communication with their preteens.
And if to extend that that break a bit, the Ecamm fam is awesome. Just on what I've seen with Glenn and Ken. Yeah, they do wonderful work, wonderful product, and I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, to it growing.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, they've done some amazing things over the years, and I remember like using a different version of it, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. I don't need anything else. And they've had the integration with Canon cameras for a while through USB, but then with the HDMI capture card and all that stuff that you can do, bring in even higher quality, I was like, this is a go-to. In fact, it's so powerful that we've integrated it into a product that we built called the GoBox Studio. It's a portable studio in a box, and we've integrated Stream Deck and Ecamm Live with it. So, without further ado, 3 actionable hacks that parents can implement right away.
Boom. 1, 2, 3. The first one is, it's as easy as ABC. ABC. This is part of opening up communication. If you're finding yourself having a contentious conversation, remember there's conflict in all interactions, really. But conflict doesn't define the relationship. How we manage the conflict, actually, that's what defines a relationship. But here's a way to manage conflict better when you get into heated conversations. ABC. When a person comes to you, when your kid comes to you, explaining something, their ideas, their thoughts, and you know that you're holding different values from them, right? First, accept what they're saying as true. And when I say accept what they're saying, don't try to argue it or try to deny it right off the bat. In accepting it, you're holding space for them to say, okay, yeah, I'm being listened to. You're actively listening. And then B, build upon. Actually, active listening is also validating what they're saying of, I see why you can see it like that. I understand. And when you start building upon it, you're actually positioning yourself next to them. And you're saying, yeah, no, 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 I get it. I understand you. And then this is the C part, challenge with curiosity. Oftentimes, that's just a question you plant in there of, I wonder, and then you can hold a different perspective. Because the thing is, you never change a person's mind from the outside in. You always change a
Mm.
person's mind from the inside out. And you give them that invitation with a question that they answer even when they leave the conversation.
Yeah.
So that's one way to neutralize a confrontational moment with a kid where emotions aren't flaring. Again, never get into a conversation when the snow globe is shaking.
Mm-hmm.
Let things settle. Yeah. Yet when you do that, yeah, ABC, you can put that in your pocket. That's the first hack.
I love it. As you're
Yeah.
talking about you change from the inside, a bit. I just finished listening to this book called Brain Glue by James I. Bond, and he talks
Okay.
about when Steve Jobs went to talk to James Scully, was it? He told him, "So you
Okay.
want to be selling sugar water for the rest of your life? Why don't you come on
Yeah.
here and change the world over at Apple?" And that small thing, you know, changed his mind and he came over.
Mhm.
It's really interesting.
Another way to make that actionable. Now you guys are gonna get 3.5 hacks. Here's the middle hack.
Yeah.
Um, if you go over the virtues and values with your kid, a nice a nice way to bring their awareness back to who they are without being preachy, without speaking down to them, is just simply ask, is this the type of person you want to be? You get to choose who you are going forward.
Mm-hmm.
You're defining yourself by your actions. You don't even have to explain all of this. You guys felt that resonate as I said it, but it's the
Yeah.
question, is this the type of person you want to be?
Mm. I love it.
Because yeah, do you want to sell sugar water for the rest of your life? Do you want to
Is that
change
what
the
you want
world?
to do?
That's what. Do you
Mm.
want to align with me? Yeah. Um, Boom. You want to move on to the second one or
Second hack. Let's take it on.
set up you time.
Mm.
What you time is, it's a minimal amount of time set regularly, and you get to choose all of this, where your child gets your undivided attention and they can present what they want to present, their interest. Depending on how many kids you have, you could divide it equally. You can make it a ritual. So maybe it's every day at bedtime, 5 minutes story. Maybe it's every time you're coming back from the soccer game. We stop at Orange Julius and grab a drink where I just sit down and give you my attention. The whole reason for this, it could be a walk around the block once a week that you take with each of your kids. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's giving your child a space where they know, I have your attention. I can talk about what I need to talk about. Um, and I know I'm being seen. You're not on your phone. And also it gives you a chance, like through the week, you still have those conversations, yeah. But if you're like, hey, I can't talk right now. Can we leave it to you time?
Mm.
Like they know there's gonna be a moment when I'm going to get dad's attention.
That's right.
And just think about it. I'll frame it like this. We make time for the things we care about. If you have a partner, you set up date nights. If you believe in a higher power, there's time in the morning or time in the evening or in between where you say, I will make time to communicate with you. Um, Let your child know they're worthy of your attention. Simple as that. and it could be very minimal. And even when they get very spicy or like there's tension, it's,
Mm,
hey, we've committed to this, and you know what? You set the pace for this. I'm giving you autonomy because you're coming into independence. You're not an immature adult, rather you're an adolescence, and I trust you. And
yeah,
then you let them know I'm committed to being present.
it's powerful.
Uh, yeah. Here's another half hack in between. I'm giving you the three hacks, but I'm gonna give you a half step in between.
Sure.
Never assume what's inside a person's head.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oftentimes when we assume, well, we all know, but we make an ass out of them with their but but it's you really don't know what's happening in a person's head. So you say, this is what I've observed, this is what it seems, and I could be wrong. Could you please let me know? Or could you please inform me? So you're making space for them to fill it in, as well as you're saying what you're observing, because you're being true.
Mm-hmm.
And if
Yeah.
if you honor what they say as true, because kids don't communicate fairly at times. As the adult in the room, you set the tone. So kids will lie, or kids may try to hide. It's because they don't have that value yet, or I don't know.
Or they're
But
scared.
they're scared. Yeah, yeah. I mean, people behave to meet their needs.
Mm,
Oftentimes, as a kid, yeah, they're scared, or they might think, "What is going to happen?" But you set the tone as the adult in the room, and I'm not going to assume what's in your head. But this is what I saw, and then you invite them into the conversation.
nice.
Yeah. And number three, yeah,
Let's do it.
let's do it. So the other ones were speaking. This one is going to be writing. Speaking of their virtues or values, remember where your attention goes, your energy flows. So bringing their attention to their virtues and values. And what I mean by that is twice I did good, heard it never. Once I did bad and heard it forever. We have automatic negative thoughts. That's where attention goes oftentimes, but rather be very intentional to put it in writing. Writing transcends space and time. That means they can keep it for later, where you actually say, this is what I noticed, and this is how I feel. About something they did. All
Yeah.
right. Could be during U time, could be some achievement that they had. And then here's the clincher at the bottom. You say, whenever you're ready, bring this letter back to me. And whatever I'm doing, you will have my undivided attention. Or, and then you fill in the time 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. What you're doing is you're letting your child know they are supported and they can come to you to actively listen with no judgment. Um, and when they know they have that support,
Yeah.
that resonates even when you're out of their presence. It's, oh, yeah, yeah, dad gave me a ticket to know that I can come to him when I'm ready. Um, a friend did this. I like not a friend was talking about a letter that he wrote for his daughter, and when he was moving houses, they found the letter and there were like teardrops on it. And he asked her, said, "You cried over this?" She's like, "Yeah, no, I keep it." People
Mm,
keep stuff like that.
yeah. It's a really strong bond when you have something like that, right? It builds that bond between the
Yeah.
people, between the parents and the kids. And those are some awesome actionable hacks for sure. I love the ABC. The U time is really powerful because I think I don't have a dedicated U times, right? And I'm looking at my calendar more and more because my kids come home at 4 o'clock. Everyone's home
Hmm.
and they
Yeah.
want daddy's time. And if I have my podcast interviews scheduled at 4 and 5 p.m., like, well, they want to be in here, they want to be in the shots, and
Yeah.
we've had that uh, experience, and it's fun, right? So I need to work around those calendars and see how we can be present more because that's something that I want to do more of, right? Um, they grow up too fast, and then you wish like, oh, I wish I had more time with that age.
Can't reverse it. Yeah. To two books, if you're open to it, that I highly recommend. Knowing the ages of your children, but it's 14 conversations before you're 14. And that's talking about not even the conversation specifically, but
Mm-hmm.
how to have these, I say heavier conversations, but it's what gets mentioned gets managed. So as you start to talk about it, it's just like, yeah, I know I can come to talk to dad about this stuff.
Nice.
So yeah, 14 conversations before you're 14. And the other one is The Breakthrough Years by Ellen Galansky. Um, over 9 years, her research has invited families and kids, and it's being an advocate for kids. When I say kids, adolescents, of how they
Mm-hmm.
want the conversations to happen. And first rule in communication is know your audience.
Yeah.
So if you know what's going through your kid's head, um, this sets you up very well on how to connect and communicate with them. And what I love about this book, it frames it in the sense of what the adolescents are, a time of potential explosion. Oftentimes we look at it with dread, or we're just like, oh, they're going to be angsty. Doesn't have to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have to be that way.
Well, Marcus, this has been a lot of fun. My mind is blown. So many actionable things I can do, and then I can take and understand. Hey, how do I want to show up and be a better parent? So thank you for talking to us about the show up framework, your wisdom, the stories, the hacks. Let's jump into the next segment, the fun six.
Yeah.
Number one, what is the one hobby that you wish you got into?
Say, wish I got into. I got into everything I wanted to, but maybe it
Mm-hmm.
could be Legos. Yeah.
More Lego? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Number two, what did you want to be when you were a child?
Wanted to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I No profession comes to mind, quite honestly,
Mm-hmm.
but I think I wanted people to enjoy themselves really. And I think I do that from a young age. I actually did speak well.
Mm-hmm.
I think I had undiagnosed dyslexia and I shied away from writing with the tools that we have nowadays. Um, I love sharing ideas and thoughts and actually listening to ideas
Mm-hmm.
and thoughts and parsing them. So, without saying a profession, I think yeah, I wanted to connect with people.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. All right, next up, what is your favorite movie or TV show?
Prestige. Um,
Prestige.
Nolan Ryan. Nolan Ryan? No. What's his name? Nolan. Chris Nolan.
Chris Nolan. Okay, Chris
Yeah,
Nolan.
Christopher Nolan.
Or
That
Christopher
right?
Nolan. Yeah, the one.
Christopher Nolan.
As we're talking about it, the Inception movie also popped in
Mm-hmm.
my head. That's also Christopher Nolan, right? Because
Yeah,
we're
that's also Christopher
changing it
Nolan.
from the inside.
But yeah, the Prestige. I,
Nice, like it. I'm gonna have to go back and look at it. I think it was it what's his name? Hugh, not Hugh.
it's yeah,
Hugh
Hugh
Jackman.
Grant,
Oh,
Hugh
Hugh Grant
Jackman.
was it?
Oh my
Hugh
goodness,
Jackman
calling
was
him no,
in it.
no, no, Hugh Jackman,
Hugh Jackman was
along
in there.
with
Yeah,
who's Batman be?
yeah. Christian Bale.
Christian Bale. Thank you. The reason I love it is because you could it never tells you what the answer is right up until the
Right.
last scene,
Yeah.
and then you go back and you watch it again. You're like, oh, yeah,
Just like The Sixth Sense. They like to
yeah,
make you go watch it again. I'm like, what? Oh my god! I gotta go see it again. The
yeah,
Memento.
yeah,
Have you seen The Memento?
yeah.
The entire movie's
Memento,
backwards.
which is a good movie. It's
It's a
good
good movie.
storytelling.
It's a
So
good storytelling. Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Next up, what movie would you choose if you got to play a character in it?
Ah, this is a surprise question, eh?
Mm-hmm.
What movie would I choose if I got to play character in it? Has to be an animation.
All right, all right.
Let's go with Puss in Boots. Hey, I
Oh,
like
that's a good one.
I like Boots in there. I like Puss in there.
Yeah,
He has so much character. He's
man.
flashy.
I
He's
mean,
also
Antonio
humble. Yeah,
Banderas. Come on, you can't go wrong. He's all a character, man. He's
he's the
all a character.
package. Yeah.
He's good. I love it. Um, Next up in the last, no, two more questions. Who is your favorite superhero?
Miles Morales. That's why we're black and white, black and red.
Nice. I like it. My 9-year-old loves Miles as well.
Yeah.
Last question. If you were a board game, what would it be?
Um, you remember that? I don't know the name of that game, but maybe it's called Mousetrap, where like you
Okay.
set up this whole elaborate like it's a board game with all these pieces,
Uh huh.
and you try to catch the mouse at the end. I think that's
Interesting.
either that or the game of life.
The game of life. We'll find it and we'll definitely put it together. Like, hey, this is who Marcus represents. Well, Marcus, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Where can my audience find you?
Marcushiggs.com, either there on social media. You'd find me on LinkedIn, but
Awesome.
just type in Marcus Aurelius Higgs. But yeah,
Love
that's
it.
where you'll find me.
We'll be sure to include the links in the show notes so folks can connect with you. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for coming on. Talk to
It's
you
been
soon.
a pleasure. Thank you, Junaid.
Thank you. Hey guys, thanks for hanging out here on the podcast. We had a lot of fun talking about parenting, talking about kids, a topic that's very near and dear to me. If you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to drop a comment in the notes below or send an email. You can connect with Marcus through the connections we have listed in the show notes. And we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks so much.